This is Kyle McCord, and you're listening to Austin, Felix, and Matt on the Devy Debate.
Welcome to the Devy Debate. All right, boys. Are we ready to debate? Austin, you tweeted something, girl. You tweeted your running back rankings. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast. You jumped up enough.
That's Austin Nace.
Who is going to be that guy? And for me, Bijan Robinson is still going to be that guy.
Back to the ground with Robinson, who spins and then tries to bounce it. A stiff arm, another one as he rides it, keeps his balance. They're going to say he stepped out, but
I'm Felix Sharp. Jay, I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
Screener draw. Oh, Wilson is going to uncork for the end zone, and he drops it in beautifully. And it is his roommate, Dax Milne, on the touchdown.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I waxed poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And it's Thomas Fields on the carry. Watch out. Justin Fields. Hello, Columbus. 51 yards.
Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Got to get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
Got to continue. I got it. Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher.
Well, I'm not nearly as passionate about what I'm about to talk about. Our apologies to Kirk Street. We ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. It's 9:30 Eastern Time, the time zone with the best pizza. That means it's time for the Devy Debate, brought to you by CampusCant.com. That's Matt Bruning, that's Austin Nace, and I'm Felix Sharp on an extra cheesy version of tonight's show. The Devy Debate crew reveals its top 10 quarterbacks. New rankings here. Should Jahmyr Gibbs enter the transfer portal? And we look at the crystal ball with the Devy Debates. But we start with the brilliance of Kayshon Bouttee, who had 117 yards and a touchdown in the first half against Auburn this past weekend. He would go on to only have 2 more catches in the game, finishing with 6 for 127 and 1. But in his last 8 games, Kayshon Bouttee has had 57 catches for 962 yards and 14 touchdowns. Now, I asked Jarek Backus, Campus to Canton's resident analytics expert, to give me some bullet points on how good Kayshon Bouttee has been. And he gave me a whole bunch of information, the majority of which I'm not going to understand. However, with only playing, 4 games into the season, he is already comparing to A.J. Brown, Sammy Watkins, Jamar Chase, Juju Smith-Schuster, Jerry Jeudy, Keenan Allen, Kendall Wright, if you remember him out of Baylor, Robert Woods. And if he improves on those numbers this year, then he will compare to some of our elite prospects like Odell Beckham Jr., A.J. Green, and Calvin Ridley. Matt Bruning, how good is Kayshon Bouttee?
He's amazing. He's the standalone wide receiver in C2C, Devy ranks. I mean, in my opinion, however you want to look at it, if he's not number one, I said on the Devy Wire podcast that I do, I don't like to criticize anybody's rankings, but if he's not number one for you, you're just doing it wrong. He had the early breakout as a freshman where Austin and myself talked about on an upcoming episode. Austin mentioned, he wasn't even supposed to be the guy last year. He was supposed to be like the 3rd or 4th target. Injuries, Terrace Marshall opts out. He becomes the number one 3 or 4 games into the season and just goes off. And he's produced at a higher level, not just the guys you mentioned, but Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, 2 guys who are also part of that LSU team back in the day. He's outproduced them at their levels. And even at the height of their levels, he's outproduced them in 2 years. He's killing it right now. I think it was at a 45% dominator rating or something like that earlier this season. And I think it's fair to say he's the main and sole thing that most defenses are likely trying to stop every single week, and yet they still cannot stop him. And he doesn't have a Joe Burrow throwing him the ball. Max Johnson's good. He's not Joe Burrow. Miles Brennan last year, he's good. He's not Joe Burrow. So I 100% agree with the take that Austin gave on Twitter, and I won't give that away because it was Austin's take. But I 100% agree with what he said about Kayshon Bouttee when it comes to others here. And I think he is going to be the next. When he comes into the NFL, he's going to blow everybody away. He's going to be, I think, a for sure top 3 pick in rookie drafts, and he's going to be one of those guys that, just like we didn't expect Chase to do this year, he's going to be one of those guys that's he's immediately in your lineup, and he's going to produce for you every single week.
Yeah, I guess I'll lead off with that since Matt just kind of teased it there. So I haven't had a tier 1 wide receiver since Sammy Watkins. It's been, I forget exactly what year that was, but it's been a very, very, very long time. People forget how good of a prospect Sammy Watkins was coming out of Clemson. He could do it all, and he was an amazing athlete coming out. Obviously, injuries while he was still in Buffalo there kind of have held him back. I haven't had a tier 0 wide receiver. I think I might have said tier 1, but tier 0, which for me is like just elite prospect, like a Julio Jones level kind of Calvin Johnson. Like those are tier 0 guys. Ja'Marr Chase, I really liked him. I never really considered him for that category. I think Kayshon Bouttee might hit tier 0 for me. He's just that good. And the thing about him that I think separates him even from a Ja'Marr Chase, who had basically everything we like in a wide receiver prospect, is that I think Bouttee is even more well-rounded than Ja'Marr Chase is. He can win any way you want him to. He could go into any team. If a team said, we need you as a rookie to be the deep ball guy, I think he could go in and be an extremely effective deep ball guy in the NFL. If you said, we need you to be our possession guy, he could go do that immediately. If they said, we want you to play in the slot, he could do that. If you need to play on the outside, he can do that. I mean, he can just really play basically any style you want him to. There are no athleticism concerns. He's the perfect size for the modern NFL receiver there, right around 6 foot 190. I mean, he can kick. He's done kick return stuff before too. I mean, I think he could do that at a high level if you asked him. There's nothing that he can't do. He's just, and he produced right away. There's really nothing else you can ask for. He's the only guy in college right now, I think, that is the unquestioned one at their position. I think there are arguments for the running backs, TreVeyon Henderson. Bijan's the number 1, but I think there's, you could make an argument for TreVeyon Henderson. The quarterbacks, I don't know that we have a quarterback one that's consensus, and then tight end we don't care about. But I mean, it's Mayer and Bowers. But Bouttee is just unquestioned number 1. There's nobody even close to him right now.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the last 8 games, 57, 962, and 14. That doesn't even consider his 200 yards in the spring game where he absolutely went off. I think Kayshon Bouttee is one of the reasons why there's no comparison, in my opinion, between the 2022 class and the 2023 class. The 2023 class has some players who are elite or are trending that way. Kayshon Bouttee is one. Michael Mayer is one. Bryce Young is trending in that direction. And then the 3 running backs. Jahmyr Gibbs, I still think he fits in that category. Obviously, Bijan and Tank Bigsby. That's an elite class, and Kayshon Bouttee is one of the reasons why, which leads me to the question, what would you put the odds on him playing in 2022? Austin, go ahead and take that first.
I think they'll actually be decent. And because he's played this year with Derek Stingley, the cornerback there for LSU, who's considered the top corner in the class, one of the top defensive players in the class, and probable top 10 pick. I mean, we'll see how the offseason process shakes out. And Stingley's playing all year. And I think Bouttee and him, I from what I hear, they're buddies. I think that he's seeing Stingley do it this year, and I think he'll stay and play another year. Maybe not. I mean, maybe he'll get like 6 games in and sit out. I mean, Stingley's out and just injured right now, and we've seen the last of him. But from what I don't think it's anything serious. I think it's just, you go to that point and then you say, I'll see you guys later. But I think he plays at least half the season next year.
And I was just going to say, Stingley is injured. I mean, he may learn from Ja'Marr Chase and Stingley that he doesn't really need this anymore. Matt, what would you put the odds on Kayshon Bouttee playing another season?
90%. I need to see more players opting out before I'm going to believe that more and more players are going to do it. I know a couple guys have done it this year, and Bouttee is he's got the cachet to do it. I mean, he could opt out. He could opt out today, and I still think is probably going to be the top wide receiver drafted in that draft class. But
he should opt out today. He should opt out today. He should say,
Maybe
peace,
it's
I put everything
me
on
being
film.
selfish.
I'm out of here.
Maybe it's me being selfish and wanting to see him out there play. Obviously, you run the risk of being injured, and we don't want that. We just saw what happened to Dante Demas last Friday night. That's you can never guess what an injury could come, and not everybody bounces back from injury. So obviously, you don't want to wish that for him. I hope he continues to play, but if he were to opt out, I mean, he's got the cachet to do it.
Has anybody opted out this year?
Yes, there was someone.
Who?
I'm trying to remember who it was off the top of my head. I'm almost positive it was a wide receiver, but I can't remember who it is.
Because I mean, guys opted out last year, but I think a lot of that had to do with COVID.
Sure, but we
haven't really seen.
We saw the trend starting with bowl games and LSU's schedule. Their last game is Texas A&M on November 27th. Why would Kayshon Bouttee? They're not going to the SEC championship game. Why would he play in the bowl game? I think we're going to know very soon whether or not he's going to play in 2022. Because if he doesn't play in that bowl game, he's sitting out next year. And I think he should. Why would Jadon Blue sit out his senior season of high school and make that decision? And then Kayshon Bouttee not sit out his third year of eligibility before he makes the jump to the NFL, especially when he just saw his teammate Jahmyr Chase do this, and or the alum there. And when you mentioned Stingley's out for the rest of the season. His draft stock is going to be solidified. If it isn't already, it will be very shortly. There's no sense in him playing in 2022, and I would actually say that I would put the odds at 10% that he plays next season.
I have a new dream job. I want to be the lawyer that writes all these NIL contracts for these guys. I put so many fucking poison pills in these contracts so these guys can't opt out. Like, I have a really hard time now that some of these. I mean, I realize the money is not even equivalent to what he's going to make as a rookie, but like, once you start making money, I feel like the pressure and everything else is just like, you really shouldn't be considering it at that point. But I get that, the increments are,
I disagree with you because if I'm a company, if I'm Subway and I'm sponsoring DJ Uiagalelei, I want to see him make it to the NFL when his brand becomes bigger. So if he sits out 1 year, which is a couple of months, and I'm not marketing him during that time, we're talking about relationships that can last a decade. Why would I care if he didn't play for that 3 or 4 months?
Hey, guess what? Go find the guy that breaks out while he's sitting out.
You can do that too. You can absolutely do that too. But someone like Kayshon Bouttee is going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft in 2023. He can have a Subway hat. He can have a Dr. Pepper hat on or a Dr. Pepper t-shirt when he walks across the stage at the number 7 pick, because that's going to happen. So I think from an investment
if a player
standpoint,
ever walks across the stage in a Dr. Pepper shirt, I hope there's a sniper on site and just takes him the fuck out.
Matt Bruning, the audience hasn't seen Austin be Mr. Scrooge in our private chat, but Austin is very much the elitist that he pretends to be. Hates the kids. So, all right. Let's move on here. Since we're on this topic of wide receivers, Drake London had an explosive game this past week. 2022 is a down class. We've got this, this big wide receiver who's a contested catch player. How comfortable do we feel about Drake London as an NFL alpha come at any point in his career? Matthew, do you see that in his future? I know you had to
add in the alpha part. I don't know if I've ever said he's an alpha. We again, me and Austin actually just had this conversation yesterday, and I will give Kevin Coleman props on this at DuBois_22. He said this with us on Coast to Coast last weekend. The one thing that worries me about Drake London is I think his variables are very widespread. It's the size of the Grand Canyon. As I said, when me and Austin talked yesterday, he could end up being N'Keal Harry or he could end up being Mike Evans. Obviously, I don't think he's either one of those. I do think he's somewhere in between. We talked a lot about, and Austin has mentioned this before, he spent a lot of time in the slot. last year, and that worried him about him possibly going to the outside and beating players on the outside, creating separation. We have not seen a lot of him creating separation, but he has spent a lot of time on the outside this year. 280 snaps out wide compared to 34 in the slot. So he's playing outside a lot more. He's very good, obviously, at the contested catch. We saw a couple of those highlights kind of making the rounds on Twitter the other day. He's got the size. He's got really good hands. I've stated that I think he has more athleticism than he gets credit for. But I don't think he's ever going to be like a major separator, even going into the next level. I don't think he's Mike Evans level, but I do think he can be a like wide receiver 2 for fantasy. And I don't know that he'll ever be like the 1 for a team, but I do think he could be a very not making this exact comparison. I'm not saying he's Kenny Golladay, but I feel like he could do something like that for an offense, like go up, get those contested catches. So I do think he's got pretty good body control as well, be a red zone threat. If he can do that, then he's going to be good at the next level. But you do have to bake in the part that he could end up being N'Keal Harry. And I don't know that N'Keal Harry is as bad as he's shown. He clearly went to a team that did not value him and use him the correct way in their offense. But that is on the, scale of what he can become.
Yeah, stylistically, I think Golladay is a really interesting name to bring up there. A name that maybe I don't hear a lot of people talk about with him. I mean, he's somewhere like that or Michael Pittman. That, and I know the Michael Pittman one's a little lazy because he was literally Drake London 2 years ago. I don't like. He's the kind of player, the kind of profile that I'm just okay on missing on.
Mm-hmm.
Like those type of guys don't tend to have sustained success in the NFL. They're fewer and far between. I mean, Mike Evans and then Vincent Jackson before him are like the 2 big guys like that I can think of that have really relied on kind of just winning at the catch point, and they don't do a ton else. So that's the kind of guy where I'm just fine not getting him. I mean, he's probably going to go like the late or mid-late first round of rookie drafts this coming year, and that's just going to be way too early for me to be comfortable taking him. So he's going to be like Rashad Bateman was this year for me, or Elijah Moore, where I just wasn't comfortable taking them in their range. I think he's going to be that guy there for me. Because he still doesn't separate. All his highlights are him like going up over guys.
All of his highlights, even that one-handed catch was, him making a catch while being covered. But the thing is, when those guys hit, they have 10, 12, 13, 14 touchdown type seasons, and they can be real assets in fantasy. But Austin, I'm kind of with you. I'm just kind of over touting the contested catchers, and I've been that way since USC's Mike Williams went to the Detroit Lions, number 10 overall. Ever since then, I've felt a little bit scarred. All right, Austin, you've got a little bit of housekeeping for us.
You have to hate just about every archetype of player because Detroit has just ruined like any kind of guy over the past 25 years. You're like, where's the next Calvin Johnson or Barry Sanders? That's the only thing we can't mess up.
Number 19 pick in 1998, Terry Fair. Number 20 was Randy Moss. So I don't know that we would have messed with him. So
there's an alternate timeline somewhere where you didn't. Housekeeping. Yay. My favorite part of the show. 3 items for you guys.
The floor is yours, Austin. The floor is yours.
The floor is mine? Oh, thank you. That's very nice of you to say. I'm going to start with our Saturday shows that we do. 2 live shows every Saturday. The first one kicks off your college Saturday, 10 a.m. to noon. 2-hour show. The first hour, all your sit, start, injury news, college fantasy. We talk a little prize picks as well, which I will talk about here in a second. Second hour, DFS betting with Alfred, Will, and Chris Moxley. After the day is over, the big primetime game ends around 11:30 Eastern Standard Time at night. We go live for an hour with Coast to Coast, and we wrap up the entire day, kind of go through all the big stories, all the happenings. So check out both of those. Those are both through campuscanton.com. They are both on the YouTube page there. We tweet all that stuff out as it's happening. Second, as I mentioned earlier, Prize Picks. We have partnered with Prize Picks here this season. It is a really cool website. It's basically player props. If you're playing fantasy, you already know player props. You know who's going to do, who you think is going to do well and not so well that week. And they basically give a bunch of props, a bunch of different positions. You can you have to pick multiple, somewhere between 2 and 5. If you get a certain number of them correct, you win money based on your bet. If you sign up for that Prize Picks, go to prizepicks.com, enter promo code C2C. When you sign up, you get an initial deposit match up to $100 from Prize Picks. And if you deposit at least $20, you get a free year of campus2canton.com. Free year.
Wait a minute, Austin. You're saying that if you go to Prize Picks and you deposit 20, how much is the subscription to the website itself?
It is $29.99.
$29.99. And if you deposit just $20, that's a $10 discount. Not only do you get a match of your money, but you also get a free subscription to the website, and you can win. You could win whatever you can win with Prize Picks. That's an excellent deal, Austin. I'm sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. If there's anything else you wanted to add, go ahead.
No. You're good. You're good. You just keep doing you, Felix. You know, you're such a fun guy, that Felix. And then the last thing, as we said, campus2canton.com, if you guys are interested in learning more about that format, getting more into college fantasy, Devy, any of those things, $2.99 a month, $29.99 for a year. We have all sorts of different tools, different articles, rankings, ADP, just a lot of different stuff over there, and our Discord as well. So check all of that out. I'll kick it back to you, Felix.
All right. I want to talk about quarterbacks. Matt Corral had a big game for him against Alabama. That game was out of hand very quickly, but Matt Corral didn't turn the ball over, some are chalking up as a moral victory for the kid who could be the first quarterback taken in the upcoming draft. In 2021, including that Alabama game, Matt Corral, according to PFF, has 0 interceptable passes. And he's not turned the ball over, no fumbles, no interceptions this season, compared to last season where he had 16. Matt, what are your thoughts about Matt Corral and his performance against Alabama, and whether or not he's trending to being the first quarterback taken?
Whew, that's a loaded question. He's looking better than last year, based purely stat-wise. I have not been able to go back and rewatch a lot of these games. I'll save some of Austin, I know, has, and he's seen some things that he doesn't feel have been corrected. I haven't had that opportunity yet, so I can't speak on that. I do think that he looks better just from the games that I've watched him live than he did last year. I do think he's in the conversation to be QB1. I honestly think right now it has to be between him and Sam Howell. And I've stated before, I think Sam Howell likely goes 1, because I think a team is going to treat him a lot like the Cleveland Browns did Baker Mayfield, and that they see the upside in a Josh Allen and a Lamar Jackson. But everything's got to come together. They've got to make sure that they build around them and make that happen. We knew what Baker was, and we knew what he could be and what he wasn't going to be. He was a safe option, safe floor. And I think that's kind of what Sam Howell is. I think Sam Howell's a little bit better than Baker, but I think his floor is very safe, and that even if he were to quote-unquote bust, you're still going to have a serviceable quarterback. He may not take you to the heights that a Matt Corral can. So if I had to pick between those two right now, I'm still taking Howell. But I do think Matt Corral deserves to be in the discussion, and I want to see how the rest of the season plays out for him, because I also think it's fair to say he didn't have a horrible game against Alabama, and I don't think any quarterback is going to look good against Alabama this year.
Yeah, so like Matt said, I have actually gone back before the Alabama game last week, during the week of their bye, actually. I went back and watched all of Ole Miss's first 3 games, and then I did, of course, watch the Bama Ole Miss game this past weekend. I know the PFF defined the turnover-worthy play as like a pass can be picked off, and it can be a not a turnover-worthy play, which I don't necessarily agree with. But I went back and watched, and I picked out multiple passes that I felt probably should have been picked off or were not particularly good decisions. He made a very incorrect read and threw. In one, the pass got bad at the line of scrimmage, and if it didn't, it was going for 6 the other way. And another one, he just did not even notice a guy drop back in zone coverage and underneath a wide receiver and almost got it picked off again. But it was kind of, up here, like, this is an audio platform. You can't see my arm if you're not watching this live. But so, I mean, he's still kind of making these questionable throws, but he mixes in these just beautiful ones that just kind of make you forget about all the bad things that are happening. So, and the other thing about him is, I will say that the system they have there is doing him a lot of favors. A lot of favors. If you watch Ole Miss at all this year, the base part of their offense is RPO.
RPO.
Basically almost everything out of the shotgun, whatever running back in the backfield there with him, fake the handoff. He reads the linebackers. If linebackers are stepping to take that away, he just throws it to whoever's running right in behind those linebackers. If they don't step, then he either hands it off or he kind of holds it, and he runs himself sometimes too. He's more mobile than I think he sometimes gets credit for. If he goes 101 this year, let's say, whatever he declares, he goes first overall. If a team is not running some form of that in their offense, I think he struggles early. I really do, because that's been his bread and butter all year. So I still think there are a lot of things about him that make me hesitant to fall in love with him. But you see the tools. Like, they're just so cannon of an arm. Like, he's very accurate when he needs to be. He just makes bad decisions.
That's actually the difference between someone like Jamie Newman coming out of Wake Forest and Matt Corral. Wake Forest ran that heavy RPO scheme where they have these long drawn out mesh points to suck in the linebackers. But Matt Corral does have the tools. I mean, he has the arm strength. Shout out to Jarrett Wackerly. I told you in the offseason, I said, this dude has the arm, and he does. And he has the mobility on a Zach Wilson level. But we don't know how he would look outside of Lane Kiffin's offense. And so I think that you're absolutely right, Austin. It's a dangerous year to have that 101 pick if you are going to take someone like Matt Corral, because he's going to have to be developed. He's going to have to continue to develop at the next level. And to be honest, I wouldn't – if he secures that first-round top 10 draft capital, he's absolutely going to come out. But he's someone who could benefit from staying in college another year, just to put I would consider this season a good season, and to put another season together where he's being consistent, where he's not making those turnover-worthy plays, and where he's doing other things in the offense, being responsible for what happens at the line of scrimmage. The play that you mentioned, where he's just missing a coverage and he just overthrew it and didn't see the guy, but it wasn't intercepted. JT O'Sullivan pointed a lot of throws like that for Zach Wilson, where he's throwing the ball like around, like the ball should have never gotten there, even though it was complete. So it's just a dangerous year to have the 101 if you're going to take Matt Corral. Speaking of, I was listening to the College to Canton podcast, Travis May's podcast today, and they actually took Matt Corral 101 in a mock rookie draft. So, I mean, that's how highly Matt Corral is being thought of. If I have the 101 next year in a super flex league and I'm staring at Matt Corral, I think I'm absolutely trading down. It just doesn't feel – I like Matt Corral, but he does not feel safe to me. He doesn't make me feel all warm and fuzzy as a 101. Let's talk about the quarterbacks overall. We're 5 weeks into the season, and there's been a lot of changes. I want to know who our top 10 quarterbacks are in Austin. I know your rankings changed based on Devy or Campus to Canton. I think my C2C rankings kind of incorporate a Devy theme. So, but Matt, let's start with you. And to the extent you want to elaborate, feel free, but give me your top 10 rankings at the quarterback position as they stand right now.
All right, so I will say that I do mind ranking more like you do, Felix. Austin and me talked a little bit about this the other day. I feel like my top probably 10 to 12, obviously depending on the position, for my C2C are very close to what my Devy are, because I just kind of incorporate that in a little bit more. I guess I'll start at 10, and I have made some changes to this recently. So it's Malik Willis, and a lot of that is he's out there having a really good year this year. He is currently doing a lot of things from the pocket and not running as much, which I think maybe someone whispered in his ear that NFL teams want to see. I do think that he gets the draft capital, and that's a reason why I have him up here. Again, I feel like I'm just completely talking about how smart Austin is on this episode. We had a discussion about this yesterday, and he said something that I very much agree with, that I honestly didn't even think of, is that with what Willis can do with his legs, that will buy him time to progress as an NFL quarterback, because he's going to be dangerous. I may have added the dangerous part on there, but it was something to that effect. And I do agree with Austin. If he gets drafted in the first round, he may not be NFL ready yet, but because of how good of an athlete he is, I think he's going to get time to develop. I do think he gets that first-round draft capital, and even if you don't believe in him, you likely can move him for more in your league because someone else will, because they'll see Lamar Jackson. Even though I don't think he's Lamar Jackson, someone will see that and think he's the next coming of that and trade for him. At 9, I have Jackson Dart. I think he's got it all. He looked incredible in that game earlier this year. I wish he wouldn't have gotten hurt. He looked poised in the pocket. I like that after he threw 2 interceptions. He came back out there like nothing happened. You don't always see that. A guy who just missed my top 12 or my top 10 in CJ Stroud, when he threw an interception, he looked rattled. You didn't see that from Dart. Dart almost looked like he didn't care. I like that about him. At 8, I have Carson Strong. Again, I think the biggest thing with him is Felix's running joke on Twitter is that he doesn't run. I do think that is going to be
run. It's bad.
I know. I trust me. I know. That's my biggest question. Obviously, him going into the NFL, to be a quarterback like that, you have to be able to diagnose defenses and use your mind, because you're not going to be able to defeat anybody there, like a Tom Brady, a Peyton Manning. I'm not comparing him to those guys, but I think you've got to be able to do that. I'm curious to see if he can. I believe he can. He does it on the college level, but how much harder does that become at the NFL level for him? At 7, Spencer Rattler. I honestly think he's coming back next year. We've talked a lot about that on this podcast. He has not looked good, and if he does come out this year, I think he's a depreciating asset right now. I think if you can move him for anything worth it, I would do it. I don't even believe in him. I said this at the beginning of last year. I did not believe in him as an NFL level. I've had Sam Howell over him the entire time, and he's not looked any better. 6, I moved DJU down to 6, and this was my biggest move and the one that was the hardest for me to make. I don't like really moving players in season, but he does not look anything like the player we saw in 2 games last year, and so I think you just have to, whether that's Clemson's offense, play calling, he just doesn't look comfortable, so he is dropped for me. And it's more... No, I'm not going to lie. It was not other people jumping him. He's played bad, and he's got dropped. Caleb Williams has moved up to 5. The biggest question I had for him was how good he was going to be at a passer. He looked good in the spring game. Wouldn't be surprised if we see more of him throughout the year. He's very athletic. I like him. I moved him up to 5. Number 4 for me is Matt Corral, having the really good season. Again, the biggest question is the turnovers and everything, which he has eliminated so far this year. 3 for me, Sam Howell. Again, it's just very safe floor. I think he's a very good quarterback overall. I had a bad week 1, but then since then has bounced back and played just like he has the past 2 years. And I think that matters because now we're about to have 3 years of successful production from a guy who I think is a very good quarterback. 2, I know it's crazy. We've never seen him throw a pass at the college level, but it's Quinn Ewers. I just believe in him that much. I believe in his ability. I think, you know what, Felix, you've got him in your top 10, I think. So,
Did you say 2? Did you say 2?
2 may be crazy for him, but I believe in him that much. I believe he's going to be that good. Even if in some crazy world he gets beat out by CJ Stroud next year and transfers, he's going to win a starting job wherever he goes. Like, I truly believe in his skill and talent. And as I've said on the Devy Wire show, I rank these guys based on what I think they can be at the NFL level. And I think Quinn Ewers can be that next big guy. So that's why I have him up here. And then number 1 has to be Bryce Young. He's proven it this year. He's answered any question we've had, and the craziest thing is we have not even seen him. I know he's not a rushing quarterback, but we haven't even seen him use his legs to do anything to really avoid rushes, to make plays, and we know he has that in his arsenal. He's just been that good, so he's 1 for me.
It's almost like Bryce Young is walking around the backfield. Like, it's just, everything is just, I mean, we've said this many times, but things are just so easy for him because he has that escapability, and he just waits to the last minute to use it. So, he's not Kyler Murray stylistically, but that way that Kyler Murray's like, I don't really care if there's a pass rush. Bryce Young has that in him, and it makes him more dangerous. I want to say just a few things on some of the comments you made. DJ Uiagalelei, He has the speed to be a runner, but he's not running the football right now. He's a pure drop back passer, and these drop back passers, man, they need separators who can get open quickly because they want to get the ball out of their hands. And you look at what DJ Uiagalelei has. I posted a Twitter screenshot from the game. He's not seeing anything open, and he doesn't have any confidence. So he needs someone like a Hunter Renfrow or Amari Rodgers, like these guys who are going to take 3-step dropbacks and get rid of the ball. They need someone who can get open within that 3 steps, and Clemson just doesn't. It's crazy, but Clemson doesn't have that type of player on the roster right now. I'm going to start at number 10. Jake Haener is all the way up to number 10. I had him at 20, so it wasn't that far up. But I think that he is a day 3 pick who could absolutely start in the NFL. The only question I have about Jake Haener is whether or not he has that true opposite hash arm strength, but I don't think that you necessarily have to have that to be an NFL quarterback. I don't know that Deshaun Watson had it. I don't know that Russell Wilson necessarily has it. Quite frankly, I don't know that Dak Prescott has it. I just love Jake Haener's game. He's injured right now, but he's been impressive this season. And it's too bad they lost to Hawaii because they should be ranked in the top 15 or so. Number 9 is Spencer Rattler, all the way, from 1 to number 9. I'm going to be on. Well, we're going to talk about Spencer Rattler a little bit more later, so I'm not going to let that cat out of the bag. Number 8, I have Quinn Ewers. I mean, all the hype surrounding him. I think that that's an appropriate ranking for him. Number 7 is Caleb Williams, and he might be in the same position where I had him previously, but we saw how elite of a rusher he was in this. Well, first of all, in his high school tape, we saw how elite of a rusher he was in the spring game. I don't know how. I know why, but he should quite frankly just be playing more because he adds a different dynamic that stresses defenses. And he's every bit the rusher that Anthony Richardson is. He should be playing more, but Spencer Rattler has confidence issues and attitude issues, and quite frankly, the crowd might turn on him if Caleb Williams gets in a game and plays well. Number 6, I've got DJU. DJU still has all the physical tools. I think that he can still turn it around, but that offense needs to change, and it can. We saw LSU's offense change back in 2019, so it's not beyond the realm of possibility. In fact, maybe you can even pull Joe Brady. You probably can't now, but maybe if you offer him a boatload of money and bring Joe Brady from Carolina to Clemson, and he doesn't have to move that far. That's the type of fix that could help DJU. Number 5 is Malik Willis. We look at what Jalen Hurts is doing in garbage time for the Eagles. Malik Willis could absolutely be. I mean, he is a rich man's Jalen Hurts, I think. With as far as his athleticism and arm strength, I don't know that he's necessarily as accurate that you want to be, but tools wise, I think that Malik Willis has better tools than Jalen Hurts. Number 4, I've got the man who cannot run in Carson Strong. I've not watched as much Carson Strong tape from this year as I did from last year, but we see him dropping passes literally 60 yards down the field. There's no question that Carson Strong has opposite hash arm strength. I love that player. I know that he's a drop back passer and he doesn't add a whole lot as far as running the ball, but in my opinion, he has everything else that I would want in a quarterback. Number 3, I've got Matt Corral. He's really matured this season. Number 2 is Sam Howell. If of the 2022 quarterbacks, the safest pick, in my opinion, would be Sam Howell. I don't know that he has the ceiling as some other players, but Sam Howell has added a rushing element to his game this year. And just imagine if he continues to develop that and if he becomes a rusher at the next level. And the number 1 is going to be number 1 for all of us, I believe, is Bryce Young, the Russell Wilson type player. He's just been, not only is he mature and fun to watch, but he's poised, he's accurate, very easily number 1. Speaking of Bryce Young's maturity, I want to go back to Caleb Williams. One of the reasons why I have Caleb Williams ranked ahead of Spencer Rattler is Caleb Williams' maturity. If you watched his what do you call it when he declared for committed, his commitment press conference, 24/7 covered him that night, and they interviewed him for about it seems like it was a 30-minute program, and they talked to him. That guy is going to be a CEO in the huddle. I think he's going to be a player that teammates are galvanized by. It's very similar to Justin Fields. And I value that at the quarterback position. And when you hear these kids talk, even as high schoolers, and you talk about Caleb Williams, he was doing recruiting. I mean, he was recruiting for OU. I just think that he's a really mature player, and that his leadership style is going to carry him a long way. So that's why I have Caleb Williams ahead of Spencer Rattler. All right, Austin, go ahead.
I have less of a problem with Williams above Rattler as like Williams above Ewers, who I think is just the more talented player. And now that he's reclassified, I don't know how he's not the number one guy in that class. We haven't really seen either, so.
We've seen one rushing touchdown for Caleb Williams. No. One rushing touchdown.
I mean, I've seen him in a spring game. I mean.
Oh, okay. Spring game then. Cool. Okay. Well then. So I have most of the same names. I'm not gonna like go into depth on some of the guys you the two of you did because my feelings are probably pretty similar on some of them. Number 10, number 11 is Malik Willis. Just to say he's just outside this because I know people are gonna say where did you put Malik Willis, and I'll tie that in because number 10 is Carson Strong for me. And why I have Willis number 11, I get that Willis has these tools to just be like just that this could absolutely blow up in my face. But part of my thinking, especially as I do these rookie rankings as these guys are coming out, is how long do I think this guy can survive at the quarterback position to like learn the things that he needs to learn to like keep a job, which is why I wasn't that high on Jalen Hurts, and he's gotten some mixed reviews this year. And I think Malik Willis is going to be the same way. And I guess his legs will probably extend that a little bit, but you'll probably know by middle year 2 if he's ever going to be accurate or if he's ever just going to kind of get it. And I think that if he doesn't, then he's probably not as valuable to you anymore because he's probably not playing anymore. And so I think Carson Strong in that aspect, if he can get it early, then I think that he has a longer chance to hang around, even if I think the ceiling is significantly lower for Carson Strong, because I do. I think his ceiling is not particularly high for fantasy purposes. Number 9, Caleb Williams. I agree with basically everything you said. Number 8, CJ Stroud. I think I'm the only one that still has CJ Stroud in my top 10. The opening game, I think he was a little nervous, and then the shoulder injury. And we saw him make a lot of bad throws those subsequent games. He sat that week. He came back this week, and I don't think there was an increase in great throws. Matt, you and I talked about this the other day, but there was a decrease in bad throws. I think that's a big step. We'll work on the bad throws, and then we can start, because that offense, passing-wise, is so conservative anyway. Like in terms of, with the position they put those wide receivers in to kind of maximize yardage after the catch and those things. So no bad throws is good. We'll get that down. We'll work on that for a few weeks, and then we can work on some of the other stuff. Number 7, DJU, he looks lost. And I do get the, he needs separators. We were just talking about this in the Discord today. Clemson actually had a wide receiver supposedly coming in next year who was a slot type guy, like sub 6 foot, like route running kind of guy. And he declared for Texas today. So they don't have that guy coming in next year anymore. They only have Adam Randall signed up, who is, if you don't know, a 6'3" to 6'4", about 195 pound, basically Joe Ngata all over again coming out of high school. That's all they have on the roster. And so I don't think that things are going to get any better there for him. How about we just get Joe Brady to do 2 jobs, by the way? Those
That's a great idea.
Just get your helicopter, go to the other place after you're done. Who's with me here? Let's just let him do both jobs.
That's an excellent idea.
I'm a problem solver. That's what I do. Number 6, Spencer Rattler. I agree with basically everything you guys said. The thing that's actually surprised me is that Caleb Williams hasn't gotten any plays yet, because I think, and I might have talked about this in the C2C pod, his skill set is different enough from Spencer Rattler's that Lincoln Riley could say, oh, we just had a package for Caleb Williams this week because he's like the significantly better runner, and really nobody would know the difference. I mean, people would be like, oh, people would say stuff, but you can't prove that it was a demotion. And you could see what you have at a Caleb Williams. I'm surprised we have not seen that yet. Number 5, Jackson Dart. I'm extremely high on Jackson Dart. He just looked like he belonged from game 1. And he's practicing this week. So hopefully we get him back sooner rather than later. He's a great player. Quinn Ewers, number 4 for me. Just the most talented high school quarterback I can remember watching. Number 3, Matt Corral. Number 2, Sam Howell. And then I do have Bryce Young, number 1. So that's my top 10 currently. Kenny Pickett just missed it. Darn it, Kenny Pickett.
Let us know whose rankings you like the most, Matt, Austin's, or my own, at Devy Debate on Twitter. All right, boys, let's move on here. We're running a little long. Are you ready for the Devy Debates?
Let's do it.
Why not?
That's such an Austin response.
Lukewarm Austin came early this week.
The first question is should Jahmyr Gibbs consider transferring after this season? Jahmyr Gibbs is averaging 3.8 yards a carry. His offensive grade, according to PFF, is down from 83.2 to 79.1. His run grade down a few points from 81.1 to 78.9. He is not having a great season. He does have some highlights. There are still some highlights where he's creating collisions at 200 pounds and he's shedding tacklers. I'm still very high off of him this season, but we saw what Trey Sermon did going to Ohio State to improve his draft stock. We saw Eric Gray attempt to do the same thing at OU this season. Austin Nace, is that something Jahmyr Gibbs should consider going to another school to get some bigger holes for himself?
You took my Eric Gray example. That was my cautionary example that I was about to throw out about how he was at a team that was not as competitive. We said, man, imagine Eric Gray on a real team. Eric Gray hurt us. He went to Oklahoma. We said, wow, Eric Gray on a real team. Guess how great he's going to do this year. And so far this year, it's been at Oklahoma. I think he's hurt his stock in this move because at least he would have been the featured guy at Tennessee this year. Kennedy Brooks is getting the large majority of those touches there. Eric Gray's stat lines for this season, guys. 5 games. First game, 9 for 27, 9 for 74, 15 for 84, 12 for 38, 4 for 22. He's caught 7 passes in 5 games. That was supposed to be what set him apart there in that offense. They haven't used him like that with an offensive guru in Lincoln Riley. So, we picked a guy that we thought had the ideal skill set and put him in the ideal offense, and it didn't happen for him. So I think we need to be very careful advising a lot of these kids, especially with the portal filling up more and more every day with the new rules to switching teams. I think Gibbs is almost better off just saying, like, screw it. I will be the big fish in the small pond. Georgia Tech has been that school before. Yeah, Calvin Johnson, and then what's his name that played for the Broncos there for years, wide receiver.
Wide receiver Broncos.
Didn't he come from Georgia Tech too?
Demaryius Thomas.
Yes, Demaryius Thomas. Thank you. Yeah. Like Georgia Tech has produced these guys. They've shown that they can do that. The level of the team doesn't hurt their stock. So no, I don't think he should.
Austin. Nobody, neither one of us were listening to Austin.
It's okay.
That's why we had that pause. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought you said a running back. I was like, there's a running back from Georgia Tech that went to Denver?
I was looking at Matt like, please save us. I don't know what
I had no idea what was going on. I apologize.
Last time I asked you guys anything. So I don't think he should transfer.
It's because I agree with you. And so I was just kind of like, okay, I agree with Austin. There's everything you're saying is probably exactly what I'm going to say. So there's not much to add. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, too, because I remember someone distinctly just got, ridiculed on an RB ranking summit because they said they didn't think Jahmyr Gibbs was going to be that good this year because they didn't think Jeff Sims was going to be that good. And it was thrown in my face that they had a great season last year, and it doesn't always matter. But that being said, I don't think he should transfer. We've seen it. It hasn't really worked out for that many running backs, in my opinion, that I can think of off the top of my head that have transferred recently and had a lot of success. We don't know wherever Gibbs would go that he would be the guy. I've comped him a little bit, not comped him, but I talked about him being, I could see him being like an Alvin Kamara where he wasn't really productive in college, but then goes to the NFL and then just completely smashes. And I do think that that's exactly what Gibbs can do. I agree with what Austin said. At least at Georgia Tech, you're going to be the guy. And I think with the way he looks and the way he looks on film, that's going to stand out to NFL teams. He may not have that college production for your C2C side or the campus side, but that doesn't matter because you're going to get likely like a round 2, round 3 running back who's going to be really good in the NFL.
Yeah, believe it or not, I'm going to say no, that he should not transfer. I agree with you both. He has 15 catches on the season already. So he's down as far as rushing the ball, but he's being very productive through the air. He just had that 100-yard game. And Georgia Tech's offense, for what it is for not being able to open lanes for him. They are excellent at scheming him in the passing game because he's used vertically on wheel routes, on arrow routes. I mean, I think that teams are starting to catch on a little bit to that, but it's perfect to showcase his hands. And that is the best thing about Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he's an excellent running back. I think an excellent rusher. But the thing that really sets him apart is the ability for him to run wheel routes vertically down the sideline, a la Aaron Jones. He is great at that. And who is it? Is it Jeff Collins? Jeff Collins is excellent at
Jeff Sims.
The coach.
Oh, the coach. Okay.
Nobody's answering my question.
I don't know who Georgia Tech's head coach.
I'm almost positive it's Jeff Collins. Yes.
I think it's Jeff Collins. He is excellent at. That's Austin getting me back for earlier, by the way.
It's Joff. GEO. Joff.
What's with these Jeffs with GEOs? Like, it's just get out of here.
I was gonna say I didn't think it was a J name. I was like, I don't think it is.
Jeff,
and then I was like, it is Jeff. Damn it.
Yeah. So anyway, but Jeff Collins' offense is like tailor made for what Jahmyr Gibbs does well. I don't have a problem with him averaging under 4 yards a carry. And Jeff Sims has been out. Jeff Sims is a rusher, and he should be able to open more lanes for Jahmyr Gibbs as the season goes on. So I agree with you both. I say that Jahmyr Gibbs should stay put and fight on. What are the Georgia Tech Hornets? What are they? There's some sort of
Yellow Jackets or
Yellow Jackets. That's right. Yeah. We're falling all over ourselves. I messed up earlier because I wasn't listening to you, Austin, because I was trying to tweet, should Joe Brady be allowed to have 2 jobs so that he can call plays for one college team in addition to the Panthers? So that's why I wasn't paying attention.
How's that looking so far?
I think it's 100%. Well, it's 23 votes, 92% yes. So, all right. Will Spencer Rattler be a first-round pick, Matthew?
This year, yes. NFL GMs overrate the quarterback position. Again, we've seen it time and time again where I'm not saying that I can almost promise you there's one out of all these teams that thinks he can do it. And that GM and that NFL head coach is, well, I can fix Spencer Rattler or I can get the best out of him. So we're taking him here. It's great that he dropped to pick 26 or whatever, but we know he has the tools and the talent. He was really good at the end of last year. And the other thing I will say about Rattler, we do talk bad about him. He's not playing horrible. He's just not playing great. He's having okay games. So when you go in, you look at the stats and you look at the film, you're going to say, okay, well, he's not. We know what his ceiling can be, and I think I can get that out of him because I would almost promise you every NFL coach and GM thinks that. So someone will take a shot on him because they're going to overrate this class. That's just what they do. Right now, it's moved that way to where we've seen, again, I pointed out a couple years ago, the Browns took Brandon fucking Weeden in the first round because they needed a quarterback and they thought, hey, I can make this guy happen. We saw it with Josh Rosen a couple years ago. Now, granted, Rosen may have gotten screwed a little bit in circumstances once he got to the NFL, but I don't think that he was ever really going to be a top-end NFL quarterback. Teams did. We see it every year. Guys get drafted, shouldn't. I think he'll end up being drafted in the first round.
I think he will. I think I agree with you, Matt, but I think he has a couple things working against him. First, I think NFL teams are at least aware, or not aware, like they are very aware of the fact that he will probably be the only quarterback there that has played under Lincoln Riley that has not gotten demonstrably better at all. I think that actually will hurt him in that process. I think they'll look and see, look what he did with Jalen Hurts was like a 6th round draft pick. And then he went to Oklahoma and suddenly is a 2nd round guy. I mean, he's had 2 Heisman winners in Kyler and Baker. I mean, he's taken these guys that were, the stock was nowhere close and elevated them. He's supposed to be the best one that's come through yet. He's gotten 0% better. He's actually maybe gotten worse. And so what do we do with that? 2, I think, when we rank Devy guys, like we rank, like we all had Quinn Ewers in our top 10 and Caleb Williams in our top 10, even though we've never really seen them play. And the whole thing is they're here now at a certain level, and we expect, based on either what a little bit we've seen so far or what we project, that they're going to get X amount better, and that's why we have this guy here. So the Rattler benefited from that the same way that Keaton Slovis benefited from that. If you don't see an improvement, that's all the value. There's no improvement there, and so that bet that you made, it didn't hit. So I think that hurts him a lot too. And just the third point I want to make on him, if he goes, everyone says that he should go back to school. Does Lincoln Riley want him back? He has Caleb Williams there.
No,
I don't think Riley wants him back.
Yeah, I forgot you weren't on this episode. Me and Felix did this and we talked about it. We think he'll go back and not be at Oklahoma next year. And I would not be surprised because I agree. If he goes back, Lincoln Riley's going to be like, well, we've got our guy in Caleb here. Thanks, Caleb. And Rattler's going to transfer. But I do think it would be better for him if he went somewhere else and then tried to recoup some of the value he's lost this year. Because again, he's not even, in my opinion, playing as good as he did at the end of last year. And he's not playing horrible. Like, he really isn't. It's just not – he almost looks a lot like DJU. He just looks lost at times, doesn't look like the same quarterback.
So does he take that gamble, go back, and not improve at all, even if he has to transfer? Then he's definitely we can't even have that conversation anymore. Well,
I think if he gets told that he's going to be a first-round draft pick, no, you're coming out. Dwayne Haskins did it. He was nowhere near ready. You're told you're going to be a first-round. That's another guy I could have just brought up. Dwayne Haskins was nowhere near ready, and someone took him because there's always that one franchise that just loves to make a bad decision.
And Dwayne Haskins had a much better last season than Spencer Rattler is trending towards having right now. If Spencer Rattler comes out this season, I do not see him being a first-round draft pick. I think in addition to Austin, as you said, he hasn't necessarily improved. I think that the rumors about the type of person that he is I think that those are true. And I think that those are going to drop his draft stock tremendously. I'm against you two on here. I don't think that Spencer Rattler is a first-round draft pick. Twitter agrees with you two, 66% to 34%. We posted these polls earlier. 256 votes on this one believe that Spencer Rattler will be a first-round draft pick. Just to back up here, should Jahmyr Gibbs transfer after this season? 70%, 118 votes there. They believe that Jahmyr Gibbs should transfer after this season. So it sounds like we're against Twitter on that one, 70 to 30%. Go ahead and vote on these polls. We got one more question here. Vote on these polls at Devy Debate on Twitter. Last one here. This is a pretty easy one. Austin, will Cincinnati make the playoff?
I think they will. I think enough other teams are going to lose out. We don't care who wins the ACC at this point. I don't think that person would have a better resume. That team would have a better resume. If Texas wins this weekend, the Big 12 champion has at least one loss. The SEC champion is guaranteed to have one loss. And I honestly, even if both those teams get in, Oregon lost to the Pac-12 champion isn't going to be undefeated. I mean, the things are falling for them perfectly. And I mean, it's a bad year in college football. I don't think their resume will be any worse than, say, Oklahoma loses this weekend and then wins out. I don't think their resume would be better than Cincy's. Realistically.
It would.
So
I think that they have the potential to lose 2 games the rest of the season. One is SMU's currently ranked number 24 in the country. That should be a fun game because you have a good defense versus a high-flying offense. But quite frankly, I think they have the potential to lose to Tulane, who is currently 1-4. But I like that. I like that team. I like Michael Pratt. I like some of what they're doing offensively. And that could be an upset for a team that you're overlooking. So I'm looking at Tulane and I'm looking at SMU, Matthew, as potential losses. And if they lose one game, if they don't win out, they're not making the playoffs. So I don't think that they finish the season unbeaten.
Yeah, I mean, I feel I gave a very passionate speech about this on Coast to Coast. So if you guys want to listen to that, go out, check out the Campus to Canton podcast feed. It's toward the end of the wrap-up episode there, but I definitely believe that they should. I don't know that Tulane is. I don't think that their defense has enough to contain not an explosive offense, but how good the Cincinnati offense can be. I actually think the two teams that could upset them is this week against Temple, because they're coming off a massive win against Notre Dame that they've even said was their Super Bowl. We've seen a lot of times that these teams get upset in weeks after these big games or right before the big games. So Temple's not a horrible team. We just saw them go beat Memphis. They're 3-2 on the season. They've got we keep saying that the rush defense is not that good because people can pass all over them, or maybe it's the other way around. I can't remember at the moment. And yet they still keep having a very good defense. The other one is SMU. Obviously, Tanner Mordecai and that offense are rolling. The Bearcats defense has struggled at times throughout this year. They've not looked as solid as they did last year. But if they go undefeated, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be. Again, Oregon was the best shot I think Pac-12 had at getting in. They just lost to Stanford, which was actually a really good game. And I think Thibodeau getting thrown out in overtime is what changed that game for Oregon. But they still lost. I think Oklahoma is going to lose this weekend to Texas, so I don't think the Big 12 is going to get in. So realistically, you're going to come down to if Oregon goes undefeated, and I don't think this is going to happen, but if Ohio State runs the table as well, it's going to come down to those three teams because I think Georgia and Bama are in. I don't see either one of those teams losing multiple times. So it comes down to those three for 2 spots. If Cincinnati goes undefeated, I understand that they're a group of 5 team, but as I said on Coast to Coast, and I'll keep it short right here, we've seen Notre Dame get in multiple times in the playoffs and get absolutely blown out, and they're supposedly a top-tier program. Why not give Cincinnati a shot? I'm not saying they can compete with Bama. They end up the 4th seed and play against Bama. Yeah, they're probably going to get blown out, but they still deserve a shot because we can't keep throwing in these Notre Dames and everything to keep losing as these top-tier programs. Give Cincinnati a shot. They hung with Georgia last year for the entire game, and I understand Georgia says they weren't taking it serious, but I call bullshit on that. I think that's what the coach said. I think it's what Kirby Smart said after the game when they almost lost. I'm like, this and that. No, and that was a better team. Pickens was out there. JT Daniels was out there. They were all healthy, and they hung with them. Bama's better, but I think Cincinnati could hang with them for a lot longer and put up a better performance than Notre Dame has in the past couple seasons.
Twitter thinks that Cincinnati is not going to make the playoff. 92 votes on this one. 62% say no. 38% say yes. Devy debates are done, and the Devy debate is done. No Chris Moxley, no bold take, no lukewarm takes, because that is going to be our show for tonight. Check out all the Campus to Canton. Check out all the content around the Campus to Canton family. Of course, the Devy debate. Why wait till Sunday? We're still doing that. 3 and Out. Canton Brown Campus Life. But that's it for us. Apologies, Kurt Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. For Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck.
Boom.
Oh, shoot. I forgot to mention Tyler Van Dyke. Dang it. I wanted to mention movers.
Where do you have him now?
I don't remember. It's like top 30. It's not anything crazy.
Oh, my God. That's crazy.
Top 30 is crazy?
I don't know if he's the starter there next year, man. You are the guy that falls in love with the pretty girl when she winks at you. Like 2 throws, and all of a sudden it's, Tyler Van Dyke, the guy that's only playing because 2 other guys are hurt.
Yeah, I was going to say, he started because Jake Garcia was hurt. So was King.
He's been the backup the entire season.
Garcia got hurt. Garcia started the other game. Garcia started the week before, and he got hurt, and that's why Van Dyke's playing.
Garcia didn't start versus that Carolina directional school.
What game did he? I'll pull it up right now. He started in one of the games. Oops.
That doesn't surprise me that he started a game, but he didn't start that Carolina directional school game
against
where they
Central
both
Connecticut. He went 11 for 14.
Right, but Tyler Van Dyke started that game, and then Jake Garcia came in relief.
Shit, Felix is right.
Yeah, I know I'm right. I was paying attention because he was starting.
He's still not that good, but hey, teach their own.
I
think I've got him like 90.
You guys like touting all these 5-star prospects and these guys at the top of the list. I like to dive deep. I like to figure out who's going to emerge, like Carson Strong, like Jake Haener, like Zach Wilson. I don't have a problem.
Not Jaden Bray, though.
Not Jaden
Bray.
Listen, I'm gonna be honest. I go back and look at those Jaden Bray highlights. I'm like, I don't see literally anything in this. Why would he even post this 90-second clip? Anyway, speaking of Jaden Bray, Brennan Presley, golly, I thought he was gonna go ham this season. I wish somebody would have told me that they don't use slot receivers there at OU, but nobody did. Nobody was there for me and told me that. Nobody told me that that boundary receivers are the only one that succeed there.
Is he is his brother there now? Or will he be there? Presley? Yeah, doesn't he have like a really athletic brother too?
He has a really, really athletic family. I don't remember if there's a brother coming up after him. I know, you know what? There is a sibling that's like really popular there in Bixby, Oklahoma. Jaden. I'm putting in Jaden Presley. Jaden Bray. I want to see what Jaden Bray has done the last game.
What do we got here? I love how everyone asks me about Kenny Pickett. So many people ask me about Kenny Pickett.
I feel like
why is
Jared accurately touts Kenny Pickett.
He likes Pickett, yeah. I've never touted Kenny Pickett.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Good.
That's Zach Xander's boy, right?
Does Zach like him too? And Jared Wackerly likes him.
I know Jared was talking about him last year a lot.
Well, Kyle McCord is going to start for us next year, so not scared.
You know, what did you offer me? Am I going to end up regretting turning down Jackson Dart and whatever try? I can't remember what you offered me. Was it Cooper Kupp? You offered me Jackson Dart for Cooper Kupp?
No, I did. I would move Dart, but I need to
offered me something including Dart, and I was like,
I've only been offering him for NFL quarterbacks. So if it wasn't that, then I did not. You asked about Dart, or no? You asked about Bouttee.
Yeah, you offered Dart and something, and I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, because I've been floating him around to try to get NFL quarterbacks. Not having that much luck, but that's okay because I'm just running roughshod over that league right now. So undefeated over which sides? that one.
That's
the
GM league?
No, it's a 16-teamer. Yeah.
I like my team in there. It's just not. It was never a team that was built to be good this year. I like my. I don't even remember. I'm struggling with whether I'm going to continue playing in all these leagues next year because I don't have enough people. I end up starting players who aren't playing that week, and the attention that I need to pay to these leagues, I'm not doing it. No, the 60. Okay, now I remember that 16-team league. I have all the rookie quarterbacks and kind of punted on every other position.
Yeah, what do you have? Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, and something. Another
Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah,
the trifecta.
Well, one of them might be good. So that's
Mac Jones.
I don't know.
It's been better than any of the others so far.
Lawrence was great this week.
Yeah, 1 out of 4. Right.
I got Adrian Peterson.
Oh, there you go.
Isaiah Spiller?
16 teams is hard.
No, he took Travion in the first round in that one because he was the pick before me, and I was really hoping he wouldn't take him.
I did take Travion.
I had to settle for Kayshon Bouttee.
That's why you're number one.
Him and Zach. I took Zach Evans in the second round. It's been a nice pick.
Wow. Oh, I have some stuff. That's what I traded you Cooper Kupp for. I must have had Cooper. I think I have Cooper Kupp in a couple of places. I've got J.K. Dobbins and Jerry Jeudy on IR. So, if those quarterbacks work out, and I've got Darnell Mooney in here, who I've always liked, and Quintez Cephas. It's for a 16-team league. That's fine, especially if all three of those quarterbacks pan out. You see Zach tossing the ball around against the Titans this week.
He made nice throws, amazing.
No. He had a couple of nice throws in that game. He had the one deep pass.
About time. We're only 4 weeks into the season, so about time he did something.
Justin Fields threw for 70 yards his first game.
Right. I know. It's beautiful.
Busting Fields. Well, I thought that was a good show, boys. I got to finish a report.
All right, I'll end it.